Welcome to Staffing Stories, hosted by Andy Moss. Andy has been in the staffing industry for over 25 years, first as a recruiter, then eventually an account manager and business owner. This is the podcast where we sit down with fellow staffing owners to get the real stories of the successes, the failures, and the lessons learned along the way.
Hello, I'm your host, Andy Moss, and I am back on the mic with Staffing Stories, and I'm excited to be here. I had a little bump in the road past couple of months called cancer, and so I am healing up from that and just glad to be back with you all. And I've got a special guest coming right out of the gates, a good friend of mine, fellow entrepreneur, and somebody you probably know in the staffing realm, Mr. Jack Copeland with Staffing Future. So, Jack, welcome in the hot seat.
Thanks, Andy. It's good to be here, and good to hear that you're back and fighting fit.
Well, I'm here, but I'm doing great. So I appreciate you being willing to be on the first welcome back session.
Awesome, I'm loving it. Pleased to be here.
And you're a newlywed. I mean, this is,
yes,
that's pretty exciting for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, married now. Got married in February in Tulum. So in Mexico, it was good. It was it can be pretty disruptive, right? Getting married, organizing it all. My wife did 99.9% of the heavy lifting, so I won't.
That's usually the way it goes.
I won't take much credit for that, but trying to make sure that we could get everything lined up for me to take a couple of weeks out of the business, and everything else was pretty challenging. And had a bachelor party, a wedding, and a honeymoon sort of all rolled into one over a 2-week period. So it's great fun.
It's an exciting time. So I know getting away from your business is always hard, and you never really ever get away from it. So you know that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I forced myself not to check my emails for about 4 or 5 days, which was a pretty big moment for me. But I told my business partner, right, if anything goes wrong, just text me. But I'm going to delete Gmail from my phone. I think I made it about 3 days. So
yeah, it's tough. But everybody in the I say everybody, most in staffing and that I know who Jack Copeland is, but some of them may not know the kind of the story behind you. And I just. I've had the pleasure of knowing you for several years now, and it's a great friendship. But just introduce yourself to our listeners and the ones that may have been under a rock here lately, but just introduce yourself.
Yes, no, thanks. So I'm Jack Copeland. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Staffing Future, and I've been in the industry for about 20 years. I think I'll almost be exactly 20 years this month, which is kind of crazy. Staffing Future, we build sort of tech-enabled websites and job boards. So websites and job boards for staffing companies that integrate with lots of things and have their own tech in there to help drive and convert, candidate and client leads.
Yep. So when you first got into it, did you actually start in the recruiting chair or the sales chair, or 20 years ago? Dig deep.
Yeah, so it was kind of a weird one. So I was thinking the other day, Josh on my team, his son, popped into the office and was kind of watching TV and scribbling on a piece of paper. And I was like, wow, this feels like complete full circle, because my parents ran a staffing agency for 25 years. So they were oil and gas recruiters. And my dad worked on electrical control systems for oil rigs. So he designed those, and on occasion went out to the North Sea platforms. This is all over in Europe, right? So a lot of the oil's in the middle of the middle of the ocean. So they met actually through him being one of our contractors, and then ended up starting their own staffing company. And so I remember growing up and not really knowing what staffing was, and not really, of course it was called recruitment, didn't really know anything about it. And then when I left school, I was like going to go and get a sales job, and I actually found one in the back of the newspaper, and I spoke to them and ended up going in for an interview. And it turned out to be a recruitment company, and I ended up just accidentally falling into, not through any connections, falling into that. And it's a weird one to explain to Americans, because in the UK we finished high school at 16. So you leave at 16, and then you've got A levels, which is like a 2-year thing where you slim down to just 4 subjects.
Yeah.
And then from 4 subjects, you then pick one, you go to university and you just study that subject. So very, very different to the system out here where you study 18, you go to 18. And then when you go to university or you go to college, you still actually have like other credits you need to do.
Yep.
It's not like that at all. So I actually left at 16. My parents talked me out of doing A levels because I said I didn't think I was going to go to college, and ended up working as an admin in a recruitment company when I was 16 years old. And
Wow.
yeah, and that's sort of how it all happened, really.
Well, staffing companies in Europe are just on every, I mean, everybody is employed usually through a staffing agency, which is the crazy thing.
Yeah, it's funny. One of the high street staffing agencies on the same road that my parents were on was a company called Kelly Services, right? And they're actually one of our biggest clients. And it was just really, really funny because they're not actually that big in the UK, but I just always remember, being a kid and being like, oh, look, they're there, along with reading a few others. And yeah, it's I think per capita, it's like number 1 in the world. So I think it's kind of the staffing market's weird. You've got number 1 in terms of gross revenue for staffing is the US. Then it goes to the UK. Then I think it goes to either Holland or Japan, or Japan might even be higher. I don't know, but basically Australia and Holland really punch above their weight. And even in the UK, I think is one of the top 3 markets in the world. I think, they're like 8th or 9th for GDP, but just feels like there's certain industries, there's certain locations that really are big on staffing and recruiting, and others that, just aren't.
Yeah, 3DIQ, we have a ton of European customers, and it's amazing. They seem to be on every street corner, or like a mom and pop or a small 2-man group, or it's fun. But, you're at the forefront of technology. I've always enjoyed talking to you because you see things really as it's unfolding, and you deal with the very large customers and you deal with the small customers. And so you get kind of behind the scenes of finding like the way these guys think, and kind of walk me through what you're seeing in our industry from maybe the larger companies, how they look at it. And then also kind of how the small and medium market is dealing with it too.
So, it's a difficult one. It's such an interesting time to answer that question. I think everyone's probably almost bored of talking about it, but obviously you've just got the rise of AI, and it's funny. Like, I think when we first met, I was doing technology consulting for the industry, 6-7 years ago. And everyone had AI in their name, right? And I used to sort of joke it should stand for automation and integration, right? Or I would be like, hey, we're the only product out there without AI in us, because really it was kind of if-then statements. You know what I mean? It was sort of pretending to actually be artificial intelligence or machine learning. And then since OpenAI has come out with ChatGPT, that's obviously kind of not the case. So I think there's a lot of companies out there trying to figure out how does this shake out? How do I leverage this stuff? There's obvious use cases with content and design and things like that, or having someone write their emails. But that's obviously the big question that's on everyone's lips. I think the smaller companies are starting to be a bit more strategic around the way that they leverage technology. So, what I saw was a lot of companies hadn't really bought any technology historically. They weren't really doing enough automation. They weren't really leveraging what was out there. Then they've kind of come in when budgets have been strong, and they've gone, okay, we're going to buy all these things. And now they're starting to realize, actually, it's not about buying them. It's about how we implement them. And so people are really trying to double down in those operational roles and getting the tech to kind of work for them so that they can actually yield some results, as opposed to just sort of, buying it and moving on, Well,
see, and that is amazing. I mean, when we work with large companies and small companies also, and the way some of these larger companies they're looking at the industry a year or two down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And how they're trying to, large companies are like a big boat. They don't turn really fast. So the way they adopt things, go through, use cases, and, just pound on it. A smaller company like my staffing company, we'll bring on our technology. Our biggest problem is we don't implement it very well. We don't stay accountable to it. And then you use it, you may not use it, and it's a fear sometimes when we work with smaller groups. Like, hey, you got to use these tools and hold people accountable to give it a run.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that whole sort of process change and building the workflow around it and making sure people are leveraging it. But that's when done right, that's the advantage of smaller companies, right? That's, if you look at, I was looking at the top 20 on SIA, and it's amazing in that I've lived in the US for 11 years now, which isn't a super long time, but it was a long time, but not but over that period, I've seen that top echelon of top staffing agencies change so much, right? There's new ones in the healthcare space that are rocketing up there. There's new ones in the IT space that are rocketing up there. And some of it's through M&A, but a lot of it is through, they come in, they don't have this giant technology debt. They don't have, this legacy product and stuff that they have to be dealing with. And so, we noticed that when we work with some of the larger companies, there's some that have been fast growing and there's some that have been around 60, 70 years, or maybe not that long, but getting close to it. And obviously the impact of the sort of tail end of all of their technology history means, like, to your point, they're like these big oil tankers, right? It takes them like a week to change direction. And the advantage that the smaller companies have is they can be these little speedboats and just run rings around,
Yep. And we encourage that, because it's just the competition drives everything. So when you look at our industry, what excites you right now? And this follow-up question is, what is concerning in our industry from your point of view?
So it excites me in terms of I'm probably going to focus a little bit on not like what we do, obviously, but just the stuff that sort of comes across our desk. So we're very involved in the marketing side, and so I think what's exciting is people have really started to double down in the tough markets on the candidate experience, when they've been struggling to get candidates. Now they're starting to focus on the client experience. So it's really, really exciting to see organizations start to think of their candidates as consumers and their clients as people who are shopping online with a digital profile, and start to pick up some of the ideas that other industries like e-commerce and places like that, or like the travel industry as well. And I don't mean travel nursing, we do loads of travel nursing clients, but if you look at the way that the travel experience is when you book a flight or when you search, right, like there's been so much focus on the consumers and the way that they shop online. And we're starting to see that now happen within staffing, within the way that people market. It's starting to get a level of sophistication around that candidate and client experience. And I think it's like really, really needed. It's really overdue for that to be the case. So very excited about that. In terms of what concerns me, I think obviously everyone's a bit worried about the economy at the moment. But so it'd be interesting to sort of see how that one plays out. And also, just some of the way that AI is coming into automation. Like I just hope that you talk about people not implementing things well and things like that. I hope that we don't end up just burning a load of bridges by getting really, really spammy with some of the stuff that comes out there. Like, of course you can get ChatGPT to write you a blog or write you an email, but it wants to be done from a place of high authority and good information, as opposed to like, oh, everything's just quick and dirty, because it could become very, very messy, and people are already becoming pretty immune to a lot of the noise that's out there. It could go even further in that direction.
There is a movement, I think, in the buyer of who buys staffing. They kind of want to control the process. They kind of want it in their hands like a mobile device. Like, how can I get to my purchase without having conflict? And the generation we grew up in was like, hey, I'll get someone to go do this. Now the young ones coming up is like, I want to do it. I want to be part of it. I want to, it's like searching for a home. You don't go get a realtor anymore. You just go to, Zillow and just start looking yourself. I'm seeing a little bit of that, but you can't do it all on your own. But a lot of it is going to be the self-shopping, the self-paced searching, and we're just assisting in that and bringing a lot to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about, how many emails you get, how many phone calls you get, how much opportunity there is out there. And it's not that the human element isn't there, because it absolutely needs to be there. It's just about when it comes into play. And I think that's the bit that people miss. It's like, we have such an ability to decide who we're going to talk to, how we're going to spend our time, what we're going to look at, what we're going to investigate. And I think there are companies out there that just miss that chunk of it, right? And the trouble is it's I would say, but they don't know what they don't know, right? So they don't realize how much incrementally harder they're making it on themselves without having a strong digital footprint across the board, in getting people to call them back and getting people to answer their phone and getting leads to come out and reach out to their website, no matter how good their brand is, their process is, how high touch they are with their clients and with their candidates. All of these people are used to going and looking at someone's LinkedIn profile, looking at their website, and basically just doing some discovery beforehand. Even to the point, we've got clients now that have been in high-end retained search for a long time. We don't post jobs, but they're starting to post jobs, not necessarily on paid job boards. They're not looking to generate applications. They're looking to basically have those jobs to market out to prospective talent, because they're starting to realize that talent, doesn't want to commit to a 30-minute conversation without having a rough understanding about what they're going to be talking about. So they need a method to get that across to them.
Well, one of the movements we've made at 3DIQ is our skill marketing. It's our latest thing. Well, we're taking our top talent to the market and letting our customers kind of, okay, I like that one, either looking at a blind, kind of a blind pitch. But we, as recruiters, we talk to so many good people, but we kind of caught in this. We need to have the job before we do the submitting. It's like, look, if you've got a great individual in a market that is looking for that, well, you got to take that to them and let the customer see it. So, with your websites and with tools that, you can kind of market individuals. It's just, it's a lot. I think as an industry, we are missing the opportunity because we are talking to the talent, and instead of using one person, let's use 20 and try to create opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I mean, that's what you're doing. You're if you think about staffing as a concept, right, everyone people are so used to selling their own business that over the years, as I qualify prospective clients or I talk to them, they all have a tendency to tell me that they're a little bit different. Right. And I'm sure they are, but how many pitches are there out there for a staffing company, right? There's 100,000 at least globally, right? And I'm high touch, I'm local, I'm process driven, whatever it might be. There's only so many different ways to sell essentially the same thing. But if you've got a candidate that you've got a relationship with and you are marketing that individual candidate into a prospective client that needs that candidate, that really is your only truly unique selling point at that time. And there's opportunities where they might be already working with other staffing agencies that they prefer that don't have that talent. There's also just opportunistic hiring, right? Like we see it all the time. Like we have about 35 staff, and sometimes we go, well, this is the list and order of how we're going to hire. But if someone comes through with the right opportunity, we might move that role up and say, well, actually the third role we were going to hire for is now the first, or actually there's someone here that's got enough talent, they're an A-star player, we're open to it. Or even like, well, maybe they can do 80% of this role and maybe just help out with another 20% here because we're a startup. So I think it's probably less, it doesn't have as much in billion-dollar organizations, but if you're working with startups or small and medium businesses, like absolutely they might just find the opportunity in front of them and look at it.
It's how easy is it to break into a new account when you have a resume of a guy they want or a girl they want? I mean,
exactly. It's super easy.
Yeah, super easy. So if I'm a sales rep, I'm selling that way versus, hey, give me a chance. Well, I don't know you. I don't know. Well, I've got a person here. What do you want?
Well, I think the other good thing to sell on as well, I've been saying this since we first started to meet back in the days when I was doing tech consulting, like sell on your tech stack. No one seems to do that. Like if you can come in and you can build this whole technology workflow and start to actually present your process, but with the technology that you're leveraging, and because of that, it means the candidates have a better experience. Because of that, it means the clients have a better experience. Because of that, it means we've got a faster time to hire. Because of that, we're able to reduce costs, which allows us to be more efficient. Like using this as a way to sort of explain how this ultimately benefits the customer. That's really, really powerful. And because that is going to be unique to you. I mean, there's there's only so many different there's so many suppliers out there. There's a lot of different permutations of potential tech stack and process that you can have, to the point that what you put together for you is going to be pretty unique. And if you can sell a story around that and why it works, tie it into some case studies, that's going to be an awful lot better than the other people that are just saying, hey, we're local, or like, our recruiter's been in the market 20 years.
I totally get it. So looking at your career, and what things would you go back and change if you could?
Oh God, that's a good one. I mean, I hate to be like the cliche, I wouldn't change anything, because it's all about where you wind up and all the rest of it. But, I think it would be, I think when I first left Broadbean, I took like a year out. And I started a mobile application game called Authors on Acid, and I didn't really, know what I was doing, and I don't think I really knew what hard work was, like an entrepreneur does. And I was weird. My green card was pending at the time, so I couldn't leave the country. And I sort of look back and I go, man, I've been working full time more or less since I was 16, and that year was not a great time. I would much rather have taken a year out when I had a green card and could come back and done some traveling, or leverage that time a little bit better, or really gone and tried to have my first entrepreneurial adventure be something that was a little less ambitious and maybe a little bit more within my skill set. And instead I kind of wound up a bit sort of on an island, sat around all day. Everyone else was at work, trying not to spend too much money, couldn't really go anywhere, trying to get this business that I didn't really know anything about going on my own. And it was actually, first 3 months were pretty fun. After that, it was it was pretty tough, and started to feel like a bit of a waste of time. So I'd probably go back and give myself a bit of a pep talk about, it's maybe better to try things that you have a bit more of a chance of success with, and go and immerse yourself in hard work instead of,
I think it being an entrepreneur is, you better be tough to handle failing, because it's going to kick you right in the teeth. I'm not many entrepreneurs just like hit the lottery and just, oh, no problems. Just,
well, it's like sales, right? It's like, you have to be really busy, but you're not that busy, right? You're launching a new business and you haven't got anyone to talk to, and you know what I mean? And so I think that's the bit that, probably I sort of missed, as I was getting a few hours work done each day and kind of running out of things to do and being like, oh, well, and so it's just, when you really want to learn something, you want to launch something, you've just got to utterly immerse yourself in that industry, and every conversation that you can have, like have it first, then, after a while, as you get busy, maybe you can be more selective around who you talk to and what you do. But unless you do it, how else are you going to learn? And so, I was talking to a friend of mine that's launching his own business about that at the moment, and it's it's definitely the way to go. And I think when we launched Staffing Future, we were doing tech consulting before, and that really allowed us to have a conversation with all the suppliers in the industry and a load of prospective customers and find some of the gaps, right? And so I think that's sometimes a really good way to go about it, is just to come in going, actually, I don't really know what I'm doing. I've got a loose idea, or I'm just going to learn and then pivot.
Well, you've created a great business, and I've loved watching it blossom from the concept you talked about to now. So congratulations. And, you're a good friend, and I appreciate you being on my show. And as I wrap up, so I always ask my guests, okay, if you're streaming something right now, is it Netflix, Hulu? What's your show?
Oh God, there's loads of them, right? So just finished Ted Lasso. Anyone who hasn't watched Ted Lasso, you've got to watch it. It's not really about soccer. It's sort of like warm, heartfelt comedy. But I think the cat's out of the bag on that one. I think most people know that's good. It's won a boatload of awards. We're finishing up on Succession as well. And my dark secret is that I also watch this show called Below Deck, which is really trashy reality TV about a whole load of people on
yachts.
On yachts, yeah. So it's cringy, but it's just like, it's pretty entertaining. Sometimes, like I watch Succession or something, it just stresses me out. I've already had a stressful work day, and then people putting together $1 billion deals and all sorts of intense drama happening. I'm like, I'm gonna go and watch Below Deck and watch two people argue about, champagne service.
Yeah. Well, again, I appreciate it, brother, and thank you for being on, and good luck.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Andy. Great to be on the show.
See ya.
Bye.
The Staffing Stories podcast is brought to you by 3DIQ, founded by recruiters for recruiters. 3DIQ's industry-leading product suite complements your submission process in Bullhorn from start to finish and helps you deliver a cutting-edge customer experience. Triple your placements with our powerful resume submission platform, candidate marketing, and client portal. Visit 3diq.com/stories to learn more.